Meeting Simon Sinek was a bucket list moment for me. His book, Start With Why, was transformative. On an 8-hour drive to a workshop that he was facilitating, I thought a lot about what question I would ask him if there was by chance an opportunity. I finally settled on, what is the one thing you would tell someone who wants to be an effective communicator? And here's what he told me. He said, remind yourself that you're there to give every time before you speak. At first, I really didn't know what to make of that, but as I've thought about it more, it really was a profound statement. Be a generous communicator. But what makes a communicator generous? As I've thought about that more, I've settled on 5 ways that we can be more generous as a communicator. And the first way is to ensure that we're providing tremendous value. Meaning, we don't just share the content, we try to dive deep, to curate, and to share the most helpful, meaningful content that we believe can genuinely change lives. People have and will always have doubts, questions, and hesitancy about connecting with the church and, more importantly, with God. Consider this: providing value by addressing and helping to resolve problems that people are facing demonstrates that you care about them and the needs of your community. Hey, before we move on, do you want to get more mileage out of your weekly sermon? This is one of the ways that I help preachers and pastors be more effective. If so, use the link in the description to sign up for my free content stacking strategy for churches of any size. Here's a second way that I believe we can be more generous as communicators, and it's to be yourself. Authenticity is magnetic, and I want to encourage you to embrace your quirks, your stories, and your unique experiences. Don't hide behind a facade or try to be someone else. Your unique perspective is invaluable. If you're new to preaching or insecure in it, you may be tempted to imitate one of your favorite preachers or to be something that you're not. You don't need to copy the style of someone else or feel pressure to be anyone or anything other than you. Show up as your genuine self. Your unique experiences and perspectives are valuable, and sharing them can help make your sermon more relatable and impactful. Here's another way that you can be more generous as a preacher and communicator, and it's to know your audience. And what I mean is that you want to understand their fears, their dreams, challenges, and the things that they're facing. It's difficult to meet a need if you don't intimately know what the problem is. So as pastors and communicators and leaders, it's important to engage with those that you're communicating with. Ask them questions and truly listen. It's no secret that Paul and his missionary journeys tailored his message to the culture and the people that he was addressing. Jesus was always mindful of who he was speaking with and appropriately adapted his message without straying from the truth. Jesus communicated differently with his disciples than he did with the large crowds. The way in which Jesus shared the Sermon on the Mount with a large crowd of people is different from his conversation with the Samaritan woman at the well. Understanding your audience is crucial, and it's sad, but I think many times preachers want or even expect their congregation to adapt to the message rather than adapting the message in a way that those listening can understand. The next way that you can be more generous is by simplifying complexity. And what I mean is to break down intricate concepts into digestible bites. Do the laborious task of making it easy for those listening to understand what you're sharing. Think about it. If they leave confused, you haven't really served them well. Again, Jesus was the master teacher, often using parables. These simple stories to explain profound truths. He took the vast and sometimes perplexing laws and prophecies of the Old Testament and condensed them into relatable narratives, drawing from everyday life. When you dive into topics, say like grace or redemption or sanctification, think about the person who might be hearing these terms for the first time. How can you create a bridge for them to cross from unfamiliarity to understanding? And the fifth way for you to be more generous as a preacher and communicator is to check your motives. It's good to self-reflect regularly. Are you speaking for applause or to genuinely help? Don't give to get accolades or praise. Give to genuinely enrich the lives of others. Communicating generously, it's a selfless act. It assumes responsibility for doing the hard work on behalf of those listening to share something of value that is beneficial to them. I'm curious, do you want more help with your preaching and communicating? Watch this video about 5 compelling ways to start your next sermon so that people immediately engage.